Well, good morning and welcome to Over the Vast Nurseries. In this video, I'll be telling you all about our favourite holly variety. How it's a nice, shapely, easy to grow plant that's not normally browsed by deer and the perfect size for the average sized garden. I'll be showing you how, where there's male pollen available, it's very fertile and produces masses of beautiful bright red berries. And if you're ever wondering how to tell the difference between male and female holly plants, I'll be showing you too how to lift their tails so you can tell them apart. It's a gorgeous morning in springtime, and as you look out over the nursery here, you'll see that we've got lots and lots of plants, ones that are now being shipped out to our partnering garden centres, ones that are located right throughout our region, that's the mid-Atlantic and northeastern states of the US. And if you care to take a few moments and stop in at some of the locations that are nearest to you, I think you're going to see a whole lot of really interesting, fabulous plants that you can enjoy growing at home. And amongst those, you're going to find all sorts of perennials and trees and climbers and flowering shrubs, and also some very pretty and functional evergreens, things like hollies, as you see. Now, if you take a few minutes and scroll through the videos that we have here on this channel, you'll see that there's a wide diversity of hollies, from the ones that are what we call deciduous. They drop their leaves in the autumn time and then carry wonderful crops of berries that can be yellow or orange or spectacular red colours and come in at the holiday times, to the ones that are what we call Japanese hollies. And there's a video here on this channel that I filmed in my own garden showing the different types of those, from the little pancake rounded ground covering ones to the ones that grow as sentinels and are wonderful for framing entranceways and doorways and things like that, and are also very good for putting into containers too. But of course, mention the word holly and our minds automatically go to evergreen ones that carry these lovely bunches of bright red berries. And here on our channel and also on our website and in our partnering garden centres, you're likely to encounter several different varieties that we've featured, ones that we know do very well here in this region. So there's lots for you to ponder and think about growing in your garden. But also, here on this channel, you'll come across some videos that we posted several years ago now about this wonderful variety here, which is called Ilex Red Beauty. This is a variety that was introduced by Rutgers, developed by Dr. Elwyn Orton, probably now more than 20 years ago. We were lucky enough way back then to be getting some early stocks of this. We did some trials with it, and from the moment we grew the plant until today, I'm safe to say this has to be one of our favorite varieties, and we know it to be an excellent performer. Really nice, strong growing and very shapely plant. This is one that naturally grows into a Christmas tree type shape. It has this very pretty evergreen foliage, as you see. Now in springtime, it is absolutely laden with lots of these pretty little white flowers that bees and pollinating insects love, which is just as well. And then, as you see, even at this time of year, these berries are still providing a pretty display on the plant, and that's unusual for the berries to last right through the whole of the winter and now into the spring. And as you see, one of the interesting things about this variety is that you can actually have the berries from last year and the new white flowers for this spring all on the same plant. And if you look carefully on these plants, you will see that already those flowers have pollinated and they've already set little berries that are beginning to form that will carry it through next winter. Now, it's a great plant for growing in gardens, whether you have it as a single specimen, whether you plant it in perhaps at the backs of beds and borders to show off other pretty perennials or flowering shrubs in front of it. It also makes an excellent hedge and screen, and an evergreen screen like this is wonderful to have, because while it takes a little while for it to grow up and form, you'll find that it's relatively easy to look after. And unlike a lot of other holly varieties that you see from these finely manicured plants here that have been sheared regularly, it still doesn't prevent it carrying berries. With a lot of conventional hollies, if you shear them heavily, you'll find that you'll produce lots of fresh young growth, but because the flowers and the berries are carried on the wood that was made the previous year, if you shear it back every year, you'll get lots of lush green foliage, but not a whole lot of berries. But as you see from this variety here, it is so free flowering and so free berrying that it actually, even though these plants were sheared, still carries a lot of berries. So therefore, if you're somebody who wants a finely manicured hedge, this is an excellent variety for that. It's also a great size for the average home. Here's a plant that will grow about 7 to 10 foot high and is therefore more shapely and in better proportions to most people's gardens. Our native American holly, Ilex opaca, is really robust and a good vigorous grower, but those, when you plant them as a little plant and then stand back and look at them years later, will grow 30, 40, sometimes even 50 foot high and are dwarfing the size of the house that it's planted next to. So having one like this that's a nice, vigorous, shapely grower is an excellent one that you should think about perhaps planting in your garden. And before I forget to mention it, it's not normally browsed by deer too. I've had it planted in my woodland garden where there's deer present all the time, especially in winter time, and during the last 15 to 17 years, they've never bothered it. Now, there's an interesting thing about hollies, and that is that they carry male and female flowers on separate plants. Now, this variety, Ilex Red Beauty, is a very fertile female variety. As you see, that's why it's carrying so many berries. And believe me, if we were to look at this plant when we're getting into late autumn towards early part of winter, it will have a lot more berries on it than we're seeing now, literally encrusted with lots of berries. And the important thing obviously is to have a compatible male variety somewhere in the vicinity of your plants. It may not necessarily have to be in your garden. Since bees and pollinating insects will cover quite long distances, at least up to half a mile, they will be visiting a male holly somewhere perhaps in your neighborhood and then be able to carry that sticky yellow pollen on their legs, and as they're visiting all of the nectar-rich flowers, they're depositing the pollen. You then get the fruit set, and that's why you get all of this beautiful berry. But obviously, if you want to try and increase your chances of having lots of berries, you would be thinking perhaps about planting a male variety that's going to do the pollination. In this case, this variety here is very well pollinated by a variety that's known as Blue Prince. It's one of the Meserve hollies. It's a very nice green and slightly blue tinted foliage holly that of course will never carry berries, but it will provide the pollen that will then produce lots of berries on your female varieties. It's important to have a variety that will flower in and about the same time, and so we find that Blue Prince is an excellent pollinator for this and for also the female varieties of the Meserve type hollies. And this is what I'm talking about. This is Ilex Blue Prince, now as you see, carrying lots of its little white 4-petal flowers. And if you look up closely at the flowers, you'll be able to tell whether they're male or whether they're female. Now sometimes people will say to me, how do I tell the difference between my plant? How do I know whether it's male or female? And I joke and I say it was very easy, you just look under their tail. Well, well, actually, if you get out your spectacles or a magnifying glass and look closely at the flowers, you will see that here on the male flowers, they have little stamens that stick out with little yellow anthers that are absolutely encrusted with lots of that yellow pollen I was talking about. Whereas if you look closely at the female flowers on a variety like Ilex Red Beauty, you will see that it has a little part that comes out of the flower that resembles a pinhead, and behind it you'll see the embryonic shape of a little green berry, and that will tell you that it's a female variety as opposed to the male, because if you look at that, there's no pinhead in the middle of each of those flowers. So if you're wondering at home what your holly is, you'll be able to get and take a close look and now be able to tell them apart. Now the interesting thing about this, that of course you don't need one male and one female. As long as there's a male somewhere in the vicinity, and it could be a ratio of 1 to 10 plants or even 1 to 20 plants, because the bees are so industrious, so hard working, they're busy working and going and visiting all the flowers, that they're spreading the pollen around. So you don't need to have a one-on-one situation. One male plant will certainly cover most of the plants that you have in your garden, as long as it's a reasonable distance. And if you've been looking through some of the other videos that we have here on the channel, you'll see that a little while ago I featured a combination planter that we have, where we grow the two varieties together in the one pot. In this case, we've got Blue Prince and Blue Princess growing together, and here in this pot are two compatible varieties, one called Castle Wall and Castle Spire. As you look down here, you'll see the female variety still has a few berries on it, the same with this pot here. But then if you look at this part of the plant here, you'll see that the male flowers are there, so that they're all in very close proximity, and you're able to grow this as one single plant and still have berries and pollinating flowers that will do the trick. The only thing about this is that you've got to keep an eye on the plant when it's growing in the landscape, because sometimes you might have one plant that grows a little bit more vigorously than the other, in which case you've got to trim it back and shape it up so that the plant's in overall proportion. But it's a kind of simple way of making sure that at least you'll always have berries on your plants. So now you know how you can have beautiful evergreen hollies in your garden with lots of gorgeous red berries to bring in the season and to give you colour and interest the whole year round. This is David Wilson. Enjoy your gardening. It's good for us, and it's very good for our environment too.